Happy New Year, people. I feel so privileged to be coming through your ears right now. It is so exciting. 2019, how will you make it different? What changes will you make that will change your business and life for the year, for next year? Like, I'm already thinking about 2020. Like, what's my 2020 vision? I'll give you a little bit of hint. One, I'm going to take all of July off. I am going to go on a big road trip with my wife. We're going to have 6 months of income in the bank, and I have a few ways that we're going to do that. And through this year, hopefully we're going to take you guys on that journey. We're going to bring on experts. We're going to bring on friends. We're going to bring on people with stories. And we're going to talk about demystifying what it takes to build and run a successful creative business. And today, we're going to have a little bit of insight to a fun thing that I think photographers don't give enough credit to. But the more I've researched, the more I've actually loved it. And that is Photobooths. And I can think of nobody better than Brandon Wong, the CEO of Photobooths Supply Co., to come on and walk me through just some of the things that photographers may be thinking, you know, the naysayers, if you will, because I was a naysayer. I was somebody that was like, the quality's not that good, or photo booths are kind of cheesy. Like, what would I want to do with that? And, you know, I'm convinced. I'm all in. I think it's super fun, really, really cool. And it's a great thing that we can start offering where we can kind of control the emotional impact that photography in general and visuals in general has on wedding days and event days. So it's really, really cool. So super excited to have Brandon on. He's going to walk me through some of the new products, his story. He was a wedding photographer just like us. It was really, really fun. And so I hope you enjoy this episode with Brandon Wong, CEO of Photobooths Supply Co. Here we go. Brandon, I'm very jealous right now living on the East Coast of your California weather right now, and just all the magic that's happening. So how are things going for you at the end of 2018, man?
Things are going really well. The weather here, as you mentioned, is always perfect. I can't complain about being in California. Things are really hectic. I just got back from China. Amazing partners, amazing factories, amazing individuals and engineers that are all part of this project. That is Salsa, which is our new photo booth coming out, and just really reassured that we have the best people working on this project. And I know a lot of people have these assumptions about China of like, oh, it's cheaper and low skilled laborers and all this other stuff, but it's actually the exact opposite. It's actually completely different than what most people assume. Very talented people there, very hardworking, and the product is absolutely fantastic. So that's my end of the year, is a lot of supply chain stuff and getting ready for the next year.
I love that, man. I'm super pumped for Salsa, and yeah, the factories and stuff like that. I view those folks as craftsmen. Like, they're making a lot of products that we enjoy and sell, and both Salsa, but also, you know, things like the iPhone and stuff like that. And we're totally going off topic really early, but that's, you know, for me, I've always been like, no, like, they are much better than I would be at making, you know, whether it's a photo booth prototype and stuff like that, and just there's a podcast called Material where it's this company called Studio Neat, and they talk about, you know, outsourcing and going to factories and stuff like that, and how they're building different products and accessories for the iPhone. And just like, yeah, it's kind of like that episode in The Dark Knight when he's like, we have to order 10,000, you know, masks to not have it be suspicious. And I'm sure that's a little bit how you feel sometimes. And you're like, oh, these prototypes look nothing like what we sent them, or they look awesome, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool. I want to know, you know, you're the founder of Photobooths Supply Co. I want to know a little bit of your story. You know, we got to meet a few weeks ago in New York, and it was really awesome. And I was just inspired by your kind of like optimistic take. And it's always fun to see people shift from one section of business to another. And so tell me a little bit of your story. How did you dive into photo booths, and what has life been like since then?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm extremely humbled to be on this show with you. I was very surprised that you even asked me to be on here amongst these very incredible photographers and other talented individuals on your roster. So first of all, thank you so much for that. Very appreciative for that. But how I got started, I was a wedding photographer just like you, and I'm still very passionate about it. I've started shooting weddings when I was at the age of 19, believe it or not. A young Asian dude in college, very passionate about shooting bride and grooms. Very strange, I'm sure, especially for being a male. But I dived into it, and I was shooting weddings with my then girlfriend, now wife, for about 3 years. And towards the latter stage of those 3 years, we went from having an artist mentality to having a more business mentality. And we started to realize that as two people, we could really only shoot X amount of weddings a year. Our bodies could physically not handle more. So naturally we said, okay, well, let's hire an associate photographer. Well, that turned out to be really difficult because we had to hire someone that was very social, very technical, and also an artist. And we spent months training this individual, and in the end, it just didn't work out. So all this time, all this money spent training, all for pretty much nothing, right? So we said, how do we automate this process? And of course, we'll return to a robot photographer, which is essentially a photo booth. And we actually bought one. It was this $15,000 massive machine that required a U-Haul trailer every single time to move it around. So we did that for a bit. And while it definitely made us a ton of money, we noticed that it was a really big burden to take around, right? So we said, okay, there has to be a better way to do this. So we started prototyping and making units in-house, finding local fabricators and whatnot. And within a span of a few months, we actually created 6 iterations of the product. Ones kept breaking, or one didn't look good, or one didn't take good enough photos. So eventually we got to a point where we loved it. And this is all purely for selfish reasons, Adam. I mean, we just want something for ourselves to rent out to our customers. Well, one thing led to another, and one of our friends told us that, hey, I absolutely love this product too, and it could definitely help me. So one of my passions, Adam, is to help other photographers and other entrepreneurs. So I said, why not? We have to provide this to other people. Other people need to make money too, and they're also hitting this revenue ceiling that I'm sure all these other photographers are hitting as well. So we noticed WPPI, which is one of the bigger wedding photography conferences out there, was happening in 3 weeks. So my wife and I looked at each other and said, okay, let's figure out how to do this. So in 3 weeks, we made a website, a logo, printable materials, a promo video, pricing, a prototype, a trade show booth, everything. We learned how to do this overnight, and we essentially built a business overnight in 3 weeks. So that was the craziest experiment ever. A huge test to our intelligence, a huge test to our marriage, a huge test physically. It was insane. But at the end of the show, we sold a ton of booths, and at the week afterwards, we doubled the sales. And the funny thing was, when we hand delivered our first unit in Vegas, the guy ended up paying us in cash, believe it or not. And I looked at my then girlfriend. We rented a strip, and I bought her a diamond ring, and we got married 6 months afterwards. So that was not only the year of the birth and the genesis of Pbsco, was also the birth of our marriage too. So we came out of the fire and now forged a really strong relationship and a really cool business. And we've been doing that for running on year 6 now, I believe. So that's how we started. Dude,
that's incredible. I didn't know about the Vegas hand delivery story. Did you plan on proposing, or you're just like, you know what, this is it, let's go all in?
Well, I wasn't planning on it. Well, to believe it or not, I was actually ring shopping the week before.
Yeah.
And I was about to purchase the ring then, but the salesperson didn't get back to me. He said he was going to get back to me like on the Thursday. He didn't get back to me on Thursday, so I left for Vegas on Friday to hand deliver the unit with my then girlfriend, now wife. And it was because that guy didn't call me back where I said, okay, well, let's just go to the strip and find something there. And I went with another jeweler on the strip. So it goes to show you, photographers, respond immediately, follow your word. If you're going to say you respond on Thursday, respond on Thursday. So that guy lost a sale, and I went to the strip and bought her a ring. So.
Oh, I love that, dude. That's amazing. So when you went to WPPI, did you even have, other than like a prototype booth that you're showing, had you built any other booths yet? Or you're just saying like, hey, like we'll make it and we'll ship within a certain amount of time?
It was, to be super honest, a make it or fake it type story. Fake it till you make it type story, excuse me.
Yeah.
So we had the prototype that we hadn't mass produced anything. We actually hadn't even made the carrying case yet. This is actually kind of the first time I'm saying this out in public because I was kind of nervous to say it before. But obviously we delivered on the units and they were amazing. But yeah, we were totally selling a promise then, dude. So we just had a prototype. We were like, this is a promise of something that's going to be awesome for you. We obviously delivered. But the funny story, man, our fabricator made us the unit the day before we were going to drive there. and it was completely wrong. Like the bolts were in the wrong place. It looked ugly. So we had to tell this guy, like, you have to make something in 24 hours to fix this. So believe it or not, he pulled an all-nighter, made a brand new one, and drove it to Vegas the next day. And we had to swap the unit out on the floor. Wow. It was a super last-minute ditch effort, but yeah, that was the craziest week of my life. WPI 5 years ago or 6 years ago at this point.
That's awesome. And so now you've sold how many booths? Do you have a number, or is like you've sold a lot of booths?
Yeah, we've sold over 2,000 all around the world, in every major city, in every major country. It's been a fantastic ride.
That's incredible. And so what has that been like? Because I know when you guys first launched, or maybe it was in the first year or two, you guys had what's now called the Legacy booth. And when I saw it, I was like, this is awesome. It's the same quality, DSLR. It's using a great camera, a great lighting strobe setup, from A&Bs. And I was like, wow, that looks awesome. And it just looked cool. Whereas a lot of, before then, at least for me, we hadn't even seen, what they call like open air photo booths. We hadn't even seen those. We'd only seen the like traditional carnival photo booth vibe. And so, like that, it was just incredible when I saw that. But one of the big things for a lot of photographers at that time was kind of the price of it. And now you guys do you still offer the Legacy, or are you mostly offering the two newer offerings?
Yeah, so we actually stopped producing Legacy and are down to the last 4 units actually as of this morning. So those are end of lifing at the moment, and we're moving on to our suite of Mexican food named products, queso and salsa. But yeah, Legacy was carried our business for a very long time, and it is a very amazing unit and has grown so many businesses out there and helped people establish very fantastic and profitable businesses. Like we just did a survey the other day about what's the average revenue that people take in. And it landed about $71,000 that our owners make off the Legacy or queso products. And 66% of them did it part-time. So it just goes to show you how little effort it really takes to go into these things, and how much money you could potentially make as well.
Now, for people when they were trying to get into the photo booth business, like you guys seem to have a whole education suite, essentially. Like you've got all kinds of support videos and lots of resources. Like, was that something you found photographers were hungry for? And, just the troubleshooting, like what's it been like to transition from, just you and your wife shooting weddings to now, having a team and kind of supporting, lots of photographers?
Yeah. So it slowly grew over the past 5 years. Now we have over 15 team members in our headquarters full time. And it's awesome. We have a little family here, but definitely a much different role than being a solopreneur with my wife and I being wedding photographers, right? Had a lot more flexibility back then. It's almost come full circle, dude. So we came from a wedding photography husband and wife duo to growing this amazing rental business where we actually work even less. And now we have 15 team members. Now I feel like I work more than ever. So it's come full circle then. But in terms of providing educational resources, the one thing that I felt like photographers needed and desired and craved was, how the heck do I implement a photo booth into my business? And for some of it's very easy, and for some other people, they need a little more handholding. So, and for us, our mission statement and why we wake up in the morning every single day is to help people create meaningful business opportunities. So it helped further our mission to constantly ask our successful owners and other people in the industry, how the heck did you do this? How did you get to 6 figures? How did you get to 7 figures? How did you market to people? How did you blah, blah, blah? And so we constantly throw these webinars featuring these professionals and amazing photo booth owners to teach all of our owners how to grow just like they did. I found that incredibly helpful for everybody.
That's awesome. And then for me, when I first saw the kind of the Legacy booth and a few of just the photo booths in general, both from you guys and competitors, as a photographer in business, I thought, man, like that'd be really cool to, get that revenue. But at the same time, it was, it seemed like another hassle, or it seemed like, oh, there's a lot more to do with that. Like, what do you help photographers with in that avenue of kind of like, hey, if they want to do both, if they want to both be a wedding photographer and, offer a photo booth. And it can be tough, especially in the cities, in big cities, like with parking and traffic and stuff like that, and just managing all of that. Like, how do you help the photographers in that arena?
Yeah, I think it's not super difficult. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate things. You're already going out to the event. You're already talking to the customer. That's the hardest part. Whenever we have a lot of people, Adam, who aren't photographers who get into this business, and they have to start from scratch. They have to make a logo. They have to make a website. They have to find the customers. They have to learn how to do Facebook ads. They have to learn how to even use email and a CRM system and all that stuff. So like 90% of the work is already done for photographers, which is why we sell so many to them, because it's such an easy integration. So in terms of like having them integrated easily, it's really more about giving that perspective like, hey, it's not that difficult. All you really need to do, and I told this to you at workshop and the whole class, was you just need to send an email to your customers saying, I provide this. And that's probably the hardest thing. And once they say yes, they write you a check, and you just carry another bag to your wedding, and you spend 15 minutes setting it up at the reception, 15 minutes breaking it down, and you're good to go. It's not super difficult. What could be difficult is scaling it to a point where your photo booth business is making six figures or more, right? That's where it gets tricky. But if you just want to add in like an extra 20, 30, 40 grand a year to your business hustle right now, that's super easy to do.
No, I love that. Now, what about, have you seen a lot of photographers kind of hire somebody to, run the booth for them while they're out shooting and stuff like that?
It really depends on the situation and your tolerance for safety and theft and damage, right? These units can range from, our newest Salsa unit is mid 2000s, right? For now on Kickstarter, $3,000 on retail. But our legacy queso products are $9,000 to $12,000. So a lot of people, that's a very big investment to anybody. So they usually have an attendant there that they pay anywhere from $20 to $25 an hour. But for salsa, I'm seeing that it's not that necessary because of the price point, because of how replaceable it could potentially be, and how easy it is to use. It doesn't require a lot of instruction. For me personally, Adam, it depends on the type of wedding I'm shooting as well. If it's in a venue that's really small and essentially I could roam the entire dance floor with having the photo booth in my peripheral vision, I won't hire an attendant. And usually most photographers know most of their venues by heart. And if you don't, then obviously just look it up online. If it looks like a small footprint, then I don't think you need to have an attendant. But it's totally up to the photo booth owner. There's no rule for that.
No, I love that. Because sometimes people want to kind of do things on their own. And I know that we've probably both seen photo booth attendants who are, I've seen a lot where it's like just an 18-year-old kid on his phone and he just doesn't care at all. And I'm like, it'd almost be better if you weren't here. Like these people can put on the masks and do it themselves. But there's some attendants, where they're really friendly and really fun. And they're very encouraging of like, whatever the vibe of the wedding or the event is. And, as a business owner, I see that and I'm like, oh, that's valuable. Like that's adding value for me too, which is really cool.
Absolutely. And that's a step to getting to a six-figure photo booth business, is having that excellent service, not only in your wedding photography, but also in your photo booth business, where that can start growing and being its own standalone brand and something that you can eventually sell later on, like we talked about earlier. So that's great that you noticed that and definitely see the difference there.
Now, I'm trying to think about this. I'm like going away from the legacy and now stepping in towards queso and salsa. Does queso use an iPad or does queso use like a proprietary screen?
So yeah, queso is pretty much all proprietary. It's a custom computer with custom screens. It has a custom camera, custom everything pretty much.
That's amazing. So what I've seen and has been really, really cool is when I first saw the legacy, you think, well, duh, yeah, it takes great photos, uses a DSLR, awesome, and really good light, all that jazz. And now it's like, I've been to events where the photo booth, I feel like it can do all kinds of crazy stuff, both at the event and post event, from like texting people after, follow-ups, etc. And that can be really big. Like, I just, you and I are big income. How can we generate more income? And like, what has been something for queso and salsa that has been really fun to work on and like all of those things that those photo booths do. Like, what are some things that people don't know about photo booths that they can do in addition to just taking photos?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Every single vertical that we target, whether it be photographers, entrepreneurs, restaurant owners, corporate, they all have different goals for the photo booth, right? So I'm going to talk specifically about photographers. In this scenario, obviously it's a big revenue generator as a rental, but a lot of people don't know that it's a great lead generator. So when photographers call us, the question that we always ask them is, how do you currently market yourself? And we usually hear crickets afterwards. They don't market themselves. And this was the same way I was when I was shooting weddings too. I would be working my butt off on the wedding. I would have dirt all over my nice suit. I'd be climbing on trees, rolling on the ground, getting the shot. But they don't see my images. And sometimes they obviously don't follow my Instagram afterwards. They don't even see the quality of the images that I produce. And I'm hope to God that the bride and groom share the gallery with them afterwards. But a lot of times, 99% of the guests don't see our work. So it's really hard to get noticed, even when they're literally right next to you, the wedding guests. But what the photo booth allows you to do is you literally collect almost all the guests' email and or phone numbers. So after the event, you can reach out to them and say, hey, it was so wonderful having you at this event. By the way, here's a sneak peek from the wedding. Also, you can follow me on Instagram here. By the way, I also do baby photography, family photography, etc. So that's a great way to really expand your services to every single person that you've just met at that wedding, and also get more Instagram followers, whatever your main goal is. And a lot of that can be done through the email and phone number collection like I talked to you about. And something that you might have seen too at workshop, when you get texted and emailed on Salsa or on Queso, you don't actually get a link. You don't actually get an MMS or an attachment. You get a link to a custom website. And this website essentially acts as a proofing gallery, similar to ShootProof or Zenfolio, stuff like that. So our photo booths actually custom generate this proofing gallery for you in real time. So this real-time proofing gallery is also branded, so you can have it be the Bearded Tog winner, Adam Mason, etc. And you can also have call to actions on there or buttons that say, follow me on Instagram, or view my family work, or view my wedding work. So every single person at that wedding too also sees your brand, and also not only sees it, but also knows the next step to take. And they're going to be revisiting that website over and over and over again because they're going to see their photos throughout the evening. And of course, you have zero work to do afterwards with the photo booth because, well, you already have your gallery. The bride and groom already have the link because someone probably texted them that night of. So there's no post-processing on any of our photo booths whatsoever. You go home, you pack it up, you're done. You don't have to upload cards. You don't have to cull through the images. You don't have to edit the photos. You don't have to upload it. You don't have to send the email to the client afterwards. That's all taken care of. It's super streamlined.
I love that. I mean, it's one thing that people don't realize, and I think a lot of photographers get romantic about, but it's like, hey, this booth is can do a lot for you, and it can follow up for you. It can make sure these things happen, and it might take a little bit of setup and infrastructure costs at the beginning, but after that, I mean, it's really going to hopefully run itself, and hopefully, just get more eyes and attention on your work. Again, yeah, like, as a wedding photographer, maybe your couple sees the images, maybe they send it to their family, but not every guest at the wedding is ever going to see all the images, which, that's maybe couples don't want that. But the photo booth, like, those are fair game, hopefully people will see those and enjoy them, especially now with things like just having those hooked up to the internet and making sure that they can do like boomerangs and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what was it like? I want to ask you about Salsa. Super fun product. I actually backed it. I don't mind saying that on this podcast. I backed it. I was the second backer, I think. You were probably backer number one. I don't even know if that's like a thing. But it looks awesome. It looks really fun. It uses an iPad, which is super popular, but the quality is really good. I loved it, and I'm loving the app. Now, what was it like? Was Queso a Kickstarter, or was this your guys' first Kickstarter?
This is our first Kickstarter.
Yeah. How has that been? Was that kind of crazy? You're an experienced company now, so I feel like you had a lot more experience going into this. Yeah.
So a lot of people questioned our decision to go on a Kickstarter well before we even decided on it. I was talking to my advisory board, talking to a few of my friends, like, well, you guys aren't a startup. You guys don't necessarily need the funding to do this. Why are you doing a Kickstarter? And I really thought, Adam, that Salsa is such a unique and different product that's going to apply to not just photographers, but so many different industries that it almost needed its own little mini brand and little mini launch. And on top of that, too, I just love the fun vibe of having a Kickstarter and having those different levels of backing. And it's just, and the funding goal, it's just so fun and so engaging. And I thought there was no better way to really connect with our customers and connect with potential new customers as well. But yeah, that's why we chose it. And we were really fortunate that it got funded within the first day of public release. I think I texted you like a day early just because I wanted to test everything. I'm like, hey, Adam, we met at workshop. Hey, just check this out if you want to back up this, no pressure, right? Yeah. And then of course I got a notification right away. I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. But yeah, it's been going great, and we're really thankful. Again, we're not a startup, so we had the benefit of having an existing large audience beforehand, very large email list. So if anyone asks a secret, like, how did you guys get funded so fast? There's no secret. We just had an audience before. We didn't do any crazy stuff or anything. But obviously the product was really cool too. But yeah, did I answer your question? I'm unsure.
Yeah, no, I mean, that answered it perfectly. It's one of those things where you see these companies that have been around the block for a while and they have a good product and they're like, hey, we want to try and see if we can, level the upfront costs while giving people a little bit of exclusivity, maybe a discount, different perks and stuff like that. And so, it's really fun to see that. And I mean, again, we're going to kind of get into this, but the barrier to entry was lower than it had been in the past. And so, I kind of want to just have a little bit of fun conversation with you now and talk about, like, we can even make up the cons of owning a photo booth, but I think you've been in this long enough that you can address a lot of them. When it comes to something like the Salsa, are you nervous about, coming from the legacy in the queso where they were 5 digits? Are you nervous about kind of the market saturation for those who already run photo booth businesses, and like, will everybody have a photo booth, or how do you address that? And I guess for you that doesn't really matter, but as far as like positioning as a revenue generating item.
No, that's a great question. I'm really glad you're asking these really challenging thoughts that trust me, everybody's thinking this. And it's a question that we get asked on almost every sales call that we get. Saturation is a big thing. I mean, we have hundreds of units just in some major cities alone. We've sold 2,000 already, and we're just one manufacturer, right? And there's many out there. Since 5 years ago and since our inception, there's been many more. So that's always a looming concern over people's minds. But when I hear stories like almost weekly, sometimes daily, of people saying, I just bought the booth, Brandon, like last month, and I already paid for it. Or I just bought the booth a week ago and I already have 3 gigs. Or I haven't even received the booth yet and I already have deposits for it. When you hear stories like that, it's hard to think that there's a saturated market out there when there's still so much demand that has been untapped. So I still firmly believe that despite what most people may think that the market is saturated, I still think there's a huge opportunity for people to have photo booths at weddings. And I know this for a fact too, because I know so many event planners that I've gone relationships with over the past 10 years of being wedding photographer in Southern California. Having a photo booth, Adam, is a mandated line item on the budget now. It is integral to have a photo booth. I think people are like perplexed when they don't see a photo booth at a wedding now. So when it becomes such a staple at an event that you need to have it, I mean, look how many photographers are out there, videographers, stuff like that. We haven't even gotten close to as many photo booth owners. So I still think there's a ton of room to grow there. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. It's one of those things where, especially for the photographers who are buying them, it's like, it always made sense to me that, photographers should just also offer a photo booth. Like, why not? Because it's like, that's kind of our arena where normally you have DJs or you have the venue or you have just an independent photo booth company coming in. And it's not to say that it's going to affect your brand too much as a photography company, but it's like, why not? It's like minimal effort for maximum gain if you can take that over and say, yeah, even our photo booth is really freaking awesome too. Just like us, you spent $10,000 on hiring your wedding photographer. What's an extra $1,000 on this photo booth? And it's going to make your day even better, and it's more cohesive. It's all delivered from the same person, high quality customer service, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Did I ever talk about the food chain with you?
Yeah,
At
we've talked about it
workshop?
at a workshop, and that's one of those things I love. But you could totally go off on it. I would totally love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so you touched upon a great thing, right? You're saying, well, why would I get into this when a DJ can offer, or the venue can offer it, or hell, but even the florist can offer it too, right? Well, that's because when someone's planning a wedding, the first thing that they're going to do is they find the venue, and then find the event planner, and then find the photographer. So let's just say someone's, quote unquote, wedding budget is $50,000. By the time they talk to you, they still have a lot of their budget left, and you still have a lot of influencing power over how they spend that budget. So for photographers, I normally find that they can charge a much higher amount than, let's just say, another vendor in the industry can charge. Because by that time they talk to the florist, or they talk to the DJ, or talk to somebody else, they might have exhausted a majority of the budget already. That's not saying that you can't charge a premium when you're one of those other vendors, but I would say you have a higher chance of charging higher, right? Because they haven't even looked into how much a photo booth costs. They haven't looked into how much a DJ costs at that point. So, but what they really care about though is the wedding photography. And when you're meeting them, two birds with one stone. Hey, Brad and Kiro, don't you want to take one more thing off your checklist? Let's just hire a photo booth to get it over with, right? And by the way, it's an awesome booth.
Right.
Check it out.
Exactly. And it's a brand that's already won them over too. Like if an expensive photographer can win them over, they're like, yeah, we were going to buy this anyway. We already love you. So hopefully you can make that happen. No, I love that. I see that food chain is like, it's one of those things that you don't realize until you're further along in business and you're like, oh, as a wedding photographer, I get picked like right after the venue. Sometimes if you're lucky enough, they come to you first and they say, hey, like what dates are you available? And that always makes you feel like a celebrity when you're like, oh, you want all my May dates? Okay, well, here's the dates I'm already booked. Whereas like a photo booth, yeah, and like DJs and just little tiny details towards the end of the food chain and the timeline for couples, yeah, they're running out of budget and they are tired of making decisions. Whereas hopefully like you're in the first 5 decisions that they make, like date, venue, photographer, photo booth, you can make that, try and like lump it in. So I love that, dude. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Is there something from coming from Legacy to now Queso and Salsa, which for people who don't know, like Legacy was an amazing photo booth and it has a DSLR in it. And it's like the quality is so high as a photographer. It's like very attractive to me, to Queso, which is super, super good and really cool. And it's like a technological like marvel, like it auto adjusts to different things. And what do you think is like, what are people missing out on if they go to, a Queso or an iPad based booth, versus like, we would say the pros of what they get is it's easy to set up, it's light, it's fun, it's modern, it looks cool. But what are they losing? Are they losing anything when they're not using a real camera?
Yeah, there's pros and cons of both, right? I would say if image quality is paramount to you, then I would go with a Legacy or a Queso product. If something that's cost effective, extremely portable, requires no attendant, caveat, obviously you should hire an attendant if you want to, if you want to be on the safe side, then I would go with Salsa. So it really depends. And I mean, there's no comparison, man. You're talking about an iPad front-facing camera, right? Versus a DSLR. You really can't compare it. It's apples to oranges, right? But in terms of the fun factor that Salsa has and the LEDs, and actually, if you were, you guys are photographers, so I can talk in this language. Ring lights are extremely effective, like 1 foot away, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to take a really close-up portrait with Salsa, like that quality is almost indiscernible from a DSLR. I'm going to eat my words. People are going to yell at me after this for this, right? But like for me, it's almost indiscernible from a DSLR. It is like gorgeous when you're like 1 foot away and you're like your face takes up 70% of the frame. But yeah, there's trade-offs to both. Definitely trade-offs to both.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things where, at least for me, Instagram used to only be, the actual photos that you could post at that time, in the app. And we've transitioned as a culture to where like you can basically post anything. And I mean, now there are non-photographers using Instagram to market and they have like quotes and photos of them with their kids and stuff. And it's like the photo booth, the advantages of everything else outweigh, the quality level, like you said, like it's super convenient. It looks super cool. It's so, as a business owner, the thing I love about Salsa, and I've been playing with the app, like I literally, you'll love this. So I was in Charleston and I went and bought, we had this email conversation. I went and bought the 12.9 inch new iPad, and I was playing with the Salsa app like just for that entire week and just kind of messing around with it. And I looked like a weirdo in the Starbucks, just like taking photos of myself and boomerangs and stuff, but just kind of playing with the app. And it was so useful and easy to use. And then I just imagined like people enjoying the photos. Like people use those same devices all the time. And it's almost like normally that would deter photographers from being into it. But I'm like, no, like they're going to be used to it and it's going to be fun. And again, like you said, it's so easy to use. And as a business owner, I'm like, we could make some money here. So, so I don't know. It was one of the things like I'm really excited for the Salsa product. I think it's going to be really, really cool. I know it's early to ask this just for fun. What's next after Salsa? Like you've got queso, you've got salsa. Like, what are you gonna do after that?
I think when you're playing with Salsa and you're really impressed by it, I think you're going to be really excited to see the upgrades that we provide in 2019 to the product. I think we're only barely scratching the surface as to what we can do with an iPad. As you can see, the advent of the camera array on the iPhone 10 and also the new iPad Generation 3 with the Face ID array as well, it opens up a lot of doors to a lot of really cool things. So I'll just say that.
That's awesome. No, I love that.
It's going to be really cool.
That's really cool. That gets me excited. It's I love it. I love it. Last question. What is something that you hope photographers and business owners, people, event professionals would come away with about the photo booth industry in general?
My dream is for every photographer to own a photo booth. I don't think there is any reason why a photographer should not have one. I pose this question to a lot of people too, is, your camera gear is getting a little old, you want to upgrade, and you have this conversation looking at, this is the brand new A7R3 or the 89, and you're going to drop like 10 grand on it. And then I sit them down, I ask this really deep question, like, how much more money is this going to make you? Really? And they don't ever have a good answer for me, ever, right? Is the autofocus that much better? Are you going to make more money, right? More than anything, it's more of an egotistical or hubris decision, right? Or just like, I want to refresh. I just want to have new tech gear, right? But I know a ton of successful photographers that are shooting off 5D Mark II still. But a photo booth can really, and I really genuinely believe this, can really transform your life, allow you to take on less weddings if you really want to, or you could just work yourself to death and make a lot of money, like what I did. It's totally up to you. But it just allows you and gives you that freedom to do what's important in your life, and to grow your business. And it's also really fun. You're providing a lot more value to your customers, and you're also capturing a lot more memories too. There's a story that I like to tell everybody. There was one event where a photographer who owned a photo booth shooting the event, and actually the photographer's grandpa was in attendance. And at the end of the wedding, shortly afterwards, that grandpa passed away. And that photographer was looking through his DSLR images, like hoping and praying for pictures of the grandpa. And there was only a few shots. And they, honestly weren't maybe the best photos ever, right?
Sure.
As a photographer, you're only so limited, and you're focusing on the bride and groom, you're focusing on the bridal party, immediate family. Lo and behold, he pulls out his booth, looked at the images there, and then in the booth are just the most amazing images of that grandfather, laughing and having a great time, using the props, smiling as big as ever. And this is what we miss sometimes as wedding photographers, is these in-between moments of every single guest, because every single guest is important as a wedding. And sometimes we miss that as wedding photographers because we're doing our job, right? We're capturing who's really important, right? But these guys are also important. And giving this memory, giving this keepsake to your customers is so much more important than money to me. And I really think that every couple deserves this, and also every photographer deserves the freedom that the photo booth can give them as well. So that's my last thing to say for wedding photographers out there.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, it's one of those things, I'm just literally thinking the business side of things and like the benefits. It's one of those things where you tell people like, if a lot of times couples will ask like, hey, will you get a photo of every guest? And it's hard to say, I guarantee you'll get a photo of every guest, especially if it's like 100 people, 125. But you say, hey, you know, my photo booth, if they get in there and they want a photo together, like we'll have all of those for the night, and it's unlimited, and you know, like you can make it awesome. And I'm just thinking of selling points already, so I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we used to sell albums with the photo booth images and them afterwards. So I mean, I could talk through forever about stuff like this.
Totally. No, when we got married, we had a friend of mine run a photo booth, and he has a Photobooth Supply Co booth as well. And we made 2 spreads of photo booth photos because it was just like, these are the moments that, you know, we also wanted. Essentially, it's like we're a culture where we want it all, and our photographer was incredible. You know, we paid more for him than we did our venue, and he was awesome. But there was also other like micro moments. There were these other things happening during that time that we wanted, and it was such high value for us to look through those. So much fun. And then like, of course, the social media, it still pops up all the time. And I know for that vendor, he's been on my preferred vendor list all the time, and so I see him at weddings still. And I had to break the news to him. I said, hey buddy, sorry, we're going to start offering our own photo booth, so we won't need you anymore. And he was like, no, that's totally fine, man. It's cool. And I was like, hopefully though, we can make this work, and we'll do some white labeling, which is a whole other industry I had no idea about, but I love that. But
yeah. Oh my God, that's a long topic. But essentially, you can start a photo booth business without even owning a photo booth. But that's another hour conversation.
Totally. We'll talk about that on the after show. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. Where should people go to find out more about Photobooth Supply Co? And then I'm trying to think. This episode will come out at the beginning of the new year. Will Salsa still be available, or is it going to be closed? The Kickstarter.
Kickstarter ends on July. Oh my gosh, January 11th. So if for some reason this Kickstarter and you're here before January 11th, you can find us there. You can also go to www.salsabooth.com or go to our general website at www.photoboothsupplyco.com. I am also dating myself. I don't know why I'm saying www. It's very strange.
You can tell, it's just the California.
Awesome. So yeah, photoboothsupplyco.com, salsabooth.com. There you go. I'm back in 2018.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Well, that was really fun. I absolutely love Brandon Wong. He's such a fun guy. And it's one of those businesses that I've just seen grow exponentially over time. And I've just been so curious. And it's one of those things where you're kind of like, hey, should my business do this? Is this something I should dive into? And I think there's a certain time in your business that you should. And Brandon's like really passionate about it, obviously. And we think that you should definitely make it happen. But Salsa is going to make it a lot easier. It's really cool. If you haven't backed it or looked at it at all, we have the link in the show notes. Go check it out just for fun. Watch the video. It's really, really cool. And it's just so fun to see how photographers, like Brandon's one of us. Brandon's one of those guys that was a wedding photographer, and he experienced the same things we did. And he's like, what can I do to make life better for me and my family and my wife? And I love that. And it's really cool. And now he's still like interacting in the event industry, and he's just helping out. And so it's really, really cool to have him on. Love that guy. Happy New Year, everybody, if you're listening to this. And I will see you guys next week. We're going to take some time off with family. Have a wonderful day. Keep being awesome.